Some of the aftermath of today's anti-IEBC demos in the lakeside city of Kisumu. A group of demonstrators broke into Tumaini supermarket at the Jomo Kenyatta Avenue roundabout and made away with several goods, but not before some of them were injured by people hired by the supermarket to provide security. An eatery next to the supermarket was not spared either. Here they ate all the food. As this was going on, some were engaging the police in several parts of the city. The demos began early morning.
Like I mentioned, this is crossfire. So that is what happened in Kisumu last week on Friday. Of course, the protests that have been called by NASA to sort of urge some individuals or officials of IEBC that they say bungled the August 8th general election. So let's have a conversation about this. We have Mheshimiwa Junet Mohamed, Suna East Member of Parliament. Thank you so much for joining us on Crossfire. And we have Didmas Wekesa Barasa, Member of Parliament, Kimilili. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Junet, let me begin with you because it's the opposition that called for this protest. Looking at what happened in Kisumu, what goes through your mind?
See, the demonstrations by and large were peaceful, except the last episode of Tumaini, which some youths took over and did the wrong things, and we reprimanded them as a party, and we don't associate ourselves with that kind of behavior. And we as well, we even issued a statement today and said that we expect our demonstrations to be peaceful, and they should not loot anybody's property or do anything that can break the law. So, but otherwise, generally, the demonstrations are successful, and they are very needy for this country at the moment. Was there any measures that were put in place to ensure that things like this don't happen? You see, in a mass demonstration, you expect every kind of elements to, to hijack and make use of it, especially people who are not even pro-ODM or they don't believe in what we are doing. So it was an isolated case. And, this is not the first time we were demonstrating. Last week, we demonstrated, I think, the other week and the previous week, and no incident happened either in Kisumu or anywhere in any part of the country. So basically, this was just an isolated case? This is isolated, and I even sometimes suspect it is our opponents who must have maybe connived with some characters there to malign our demonstrations and our name. We're investigating also that. Mheshimiwa, what are your thoughts about what happened in Kisumu?
It's completely regrettable, owing to the fact that it's not even easy to put up a kiosk. Putting up such massive investment may have taken a lot of resources, sacrifices, only to be brought down, vandalized by people maybe who may not even own even a bicycle. And I think understanding where Junet comes from, the people who are calling for these demonstrations, the one who crafted Junet Mohamed's political journey, understanding that Junet was first nominated as a councillor. He was a mayor of Migori in 2003. And for him to survive politically in future, he has just to say that the demonstrations are peaceful. What we are seeing happen in counties of Kisumu, some parts of Mombasa, in Nairobi, is completely with no respect of rule of law. And these are just criminal gangs that need to be cracked down by police, because we cannot allow that understanding the economy of our country, that the hard work of Kenyans who have sacrificed, who have denied themselves, who have denied their families the comfort of a good life, to put up such properties only to be brought down by people who are protesting against Chiroba and Chebukati, who are not in Kisumu. Chiroba and Chebukati are in Nairobi.
Mheshimiwa, these are criminal gangs that probably shouldn't be allowed to be demonstrating in the first place.
Mheshimiwa is very new to politics. He's just a Johnny Camlet. He's just having his first term. you don't understand the problems and sufferings this country is going through at the moment.
Okay.
And in his own backyard in Bungoma, there are demonstrations. They do happen all the time. And what we are saying, it's not the responsibility of the opposition to protect the lives and properties of Kenyans. It is the police. But it is our responsibility, or it is our constitutional right to demonstrate. So what we are exercising is a constitutional right that we don't need to be given to by anybody. So if elements who are criminals do, and I'm told some of them have been arrested and they'll be arraigned in court, we are happy with that, we are okay with that. And we have told as much our people that they must be careful about other people's property. And secondly, we are demonstrating not because Chiloba is in Nairobi. We are demonstrating because there are voters all over the country, whether they're in Kisumu or whether they're in Migori or whether they're in Bungoma, whose votes have not been, accounted for, whose votes have been stolen, and whose sovereignty have been diminished, because that's what the Constitution expects of IEBC to do. So it doesn't matter whether Chiloba stays in Nairobi or he stays in Kakamega. The fact of the matter is he bungled an election, and every Kenyan anywhere in the country will demonstrate against him.
And as we speak, the protests are going to go to 3 times a week.
Now, yes, we are going to have them on Monday and on Wednesdays and on Fridays.
So what necessitated the additional days?
Because we decided that the matter is getting more grievous now. And they are preparing for an election that they want to bungle again on 26th. So
you see, the right to picket is protected within the law of this country. The right of an accused person are also protected within the law. NASA have written to the Director of Public Prosecutions to investigate those who are involved in irregularities and malpractices within IEBC with regard to the August elections. So common sense will dictate that once you've written to an authority to carry out, to begin, investigations, within a particular, in a body, then you should channel your demonstration towards that body. You should be demonstrating against a DPP so that the DPP can tell you how far he has gone with the investigation within IEBC. And even you could only have begun demonstrating if you are not satisfied with the level of preparedness by IEBC in terms of complying with the elections laws. So you could have gone, don't draft your own irreducible minimums. Do a checklist of what the Supreme Court outlined that were not followed. So on the basis of what the Supreme Court said, that is what you go to check what IEBC has done to ensure that it do not repeat what they did in August elections. But you wake up one morning, you're only seeking for relevance. You want to create anarchy in this country.
Okay, Mheshimiwa, let me ask you, among the irreducible minimums that NASA has, is there any at all that makes sense to you? Is there any at all that maybe you can sit and think and say, okay, maybe this one we should consider?
To me, that doesn't make sense. We have the elections laws, we have the Constitution. Anything that will make sense, it's anything that is anchored in the election laws. Things to do with the sovereign mofo, I don't know what kind of things, Chiroba, that is neither here nor there. And the Supreme Court ruling was clear on the areas of the Constitution, the areas of the election law that were not followed.
It's very interesting that you say that because Jubilee is also pushing for the amendment of the Elections Act. But Mheshimiwa, I'll allow you to respond to that.
You see, Linda, first I'm shocked that my colleague is saying we should demonstrate against DPP and the police. Those people never conducted any elections on 8th. The people who conducted, the last time I checked, were IEBC, the elections. Secondly, we are not asking for any favors from Jubilee or from IEBC. It's our constitutional right to demand for our right and for proper elections to be conducted in this country. Secondly, the irreducible minimums that we have put forward, as you know very well, the Supreme Court said there were irregularities and illegalities that were committed by IEBC as an institution. Now, those illegalities are committed by individuals who work in that institution. And the CEO of that institution is Ezra Chiloba and nobody else. So if you are telling us that you don't have any problem with IEBC, they shall conduct the elections the way they conducted on 8th of August, then that means you still want elections to be stolen. And you know you cannot win in a free, fair, transparent, and verifiable election. So how do you expect a thief who has been condemned by a court of law that he has mismanaged an election, he has misconducted an election, to conduct the same election again and expect a different result? So, you know, Linda, people must take responsibility. People must be held to account. If it is Chiloba who conducted the 8 elections which were annulled by the courts, which were nullified by the courts because of illegalities, those individuals must be held to account, period.
Okay.
I have not seen any individual from IEBC who has been condemned by the courts, as my friend Junaid Mohammed puts it. Judge Maraga said that it's difficult for the Supreme Court to pinpoint who among the staffs of IEBC may have the responsibility of those errors that were committed by IEBC. So when my friend is saying that the court condemned some people, maybe you are reading
You know,
from the different groups that I don't know.
You know, that is circumventing the law. That is circumventing the judgment. You see, the court that we went to, the Supreme Court, was an election court. They were supposed to check whether the elections were conducted in accordance with the Constitution and the law. It's not a criminal court. Where Chiloba and his company belong is to a criminal court, not an election court. After finishing with the election court, and the election has discovered that the elections were not conducted in accordance with the dictates of the Constitution, it is now time to take Chiloba and his company to a criminal court. Because those illegalities did not happen by themselves. Okay. Somebody somewhere must have done them.
But you see, Linda, I want to remind my friend of Article 50 of the Constitution. The right of an accused person, the right for such a person to be presumed innocent until proved guilty by the court of law. These issues or the acts of lynching people based on our own personal convictions, I think is taking this country backwards.
Okay, Mheshimiwa Junet, yes. So these, like I mentioned, these protests are now moving from 1 day a week to 3.
Yes.
Let's listen to what President Uhuru Kenyatta had to say about this protest and what essentially it is doing to the country.
Na hiyo makelele yako ya kila siku. Uchumi wa Kenya ndio unatusaidia kuokota kodi ambayo inatuwezesha kusaidia wakulima kama hawa wa maziwa, ambayo inatusaidia kujenga mashule. Please, do not let your selfish interest defeat the interest of 45 million Kenyans.
So essentially the president was saying these protests are hurting the economy of the country. Junet?
Yeah, you see, if the president doesn't want us to do demonstrations, then he should allow free and fair elections to happen in the country. Then there will be no demonstrations. If there is free and fair elections,
should allow a free fair?
He should allow, because Jubilee is interfering and, making the work of IEBC difficult.
How?
There are certain characters in IEBC who work with them. It's for a fact.
Junet?
No, it's for a fact, that one, unless you're living in another country. So,
okay.
If they want these elections, if they want the economy to grow, if they want every Kenyan to live peaceful, if they want the country not to have demonstrations, then they should allow free, fair elections to happen. If he wins in that kind of election, we will congratulate him and we will have a peaceful country. But you see, the president should not speak as though he's the only contestant or he's the only candidate in this election. Elections are a constitutional requirement. It's not a favor from him or from my colleague here. Okay. Elections must happen every 5 years. And if Linda is interested in becoming the president of Kenya, she'll come forward. It's not a favor, it's a right. Even one day I'll run for president if I want. It's a constitutional right. So once that time comes, which is the second Tuesday of the 5th year after the first election, then that means there must be free, fair, verifiable election as enshrined in the Constitution. So
the only way you're saying that these protests will stop is if, like you say, using your words, Jubilee allows a free, fair, credible election?
Correct.
Mheshimiwa, are you in any way stopping?
The impediment to a free and a fair elections is NASA, led by Mheshimiwa Junaid Mohammed. These people, Linda, they don't care. What they want is power. Whether some lives are lost, whether properties are destroyed, what they want is power and nothing else. I want to challenge them that the interest of Kenyans to live peaceful, to have their property protected, whether they were born in any part of this country or not, should not be interfered with. And Junet, what you do during the day, I want to challenge you that today when you go to sleep, when you close your bedroom, ask your wife whether if what you are doing is right or wrong. She will advise you genuinely what you are doing is wrong.
When I closed my door, I don't need to discuss.
Because you cannot begin.
I don't need to discuss.
You cannot begin destroying properties of the Kenyan people that because you want Chiroba and Chebukati to exit, to forcefully be vacated from office.
When I close my door, I don't need to discuss my wife's politics. We have other business.
She will advise you.
We have other business to attend.
She will advise
now,
you.
Listen, my friend, listen. The other businesses there, you don't need to discuss politics. But let me tell you something.
Yeah.
The impediment of free and fair elections in this country is Jubilee. They have infiltrated and they have made the work of IEBC difficult. Look at what they are doing now. They have brought amendments in the middle of the game and making the chairman, Chebukati, to be powerless. In fact, I was shocked the other day. Chairman appears before a parliamentary committee, which constitutes of only Jubilee members, and they chase him away. Tell him, come with other people. How do you deal with a chairman like that? Surely, even in front of the cameras, it just tells you how they have the position, the place they have put that chairman.
Maybe they wanted proper representation from
No, the chairman speaks for the commission. Okay. If the chairman tells you, I'm speaking here on behalf of the commission, who are you to deny him that right? Secondly, first, Jubilee must know that their term has ended. They don't assume that. Let them not assume that they are supposed to be in power perpetually. The president must know that his term ended on 8th of August. Okay. He's an incumbent, temporary incumbent president, waiting for him to be, his mandate again to be validated by the people, or for him to hand over to somebody else, most likely Raila. No, Githu Muigai was reading the law upside down. You know, Githu Muigai is the Attorney General of the President. So you don't expect him to tell the President that your term is over. Because that means also his term is over. He doesn't want to go home. No, let me finish this point. Okay. You see, Linda, the President must know that he is somebody who's waiting. He's at the mercy of the people at the moment. But you believe speaking as though there is no election in this country. As though they are in power for good and forever. This country has a constitution which says after every 5 years, we are going to have a presidential election. Okay. We went to the presidential elections. They stole our votes. They told us, no, go to court. Stop making noise on the streets. Why are you burning tires? Why are you doing this? We told them, okay, fine, we are going to court. We went to court. They brought their lawyers, we brought ours. The court decided and gave a verdict that the elections were not conducted according to the Constitution. We told them that means there are problems in IEBC. Can we sit down and address those issues? These are our reducible minimums. There were forms which were fake. We don't think Al Ghurair is called, they are called Al Ghurair. Al Ghurair. They are not the right people to bring other forms for these elections. OT Morpho, they couldn't give us servers. When the court required the servers to be opened, OT Morpho was sleeping in Paris. Can we get another company that will be awake when Africans are awake? They refused. We told them, can we again sit down and agree on how to get the returning officers so that we have proper returning officers who can sign the documents as required by law? Jubilee have refused. What have they done?
Junet, none of your demands have been met.
Nothing.
Zero.
Zero. Not even one. Not even a single one.
Junet, are you sure?
And then here he's telling me that, you know, these people are power hungry. Where are they in power? If they where are they in power? Where can they live?
Sure. I want to advise Chebukati that he is a lawyer, is the chairman of IEBC. He should read the Constitution, read elections laws, and forget being taken left, right, and center by either Jubilee or NASA on some conditions which are not existing in law. We have the law that needs to be followed. There is nothing that what Junet and his group are proposing. They want to. They are just suffering from what I may call paranoia. They're just paranoid. I mean, because they are used to losing elections. You know, when you, Linda, lost elections one time, so if you have lost for 3 times, you feel very bad that we want to do anything to your advantage to get to power. And I want to tell Junet that you do not win an election by selecting the company, the firm to print the ballot papers. You do not win an election if you were by choosing who should be a returning officer. You win an election on a platform of development, on a platform, on an agenda, and the majority of the Kenyans will give you the vote. No. That is the only way. There is nothing else.
Linda,
okay.
you can go and tell that to the birds.
Okay.
We have discovered now. You see, we're not campaigning. We have discovered.
Why aren't you campaigning?
We have discovered that election is not about campaigning. It's not about going to Bongo. It's about the IEBC. It's about the person who's printing the forms. It's about Oti Mofo. It's about Chiloba. It's about Chebukati. It's about returning officers. All that system was working for Jubilee. Now, when we are telling
so that's why you guys are not campaigning.
We have the people. We don't need to go and tell them.
Linda,
listen, my people in Migori are ready to vote any day, any time.
Okay.
But they want their votes counted.
Okay. Listen, I want us to listen to what IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati had to say, I believe, early last week. Could we listen into that a little bit?
Has revealed the team that will manage the poll. The project team leader will be Deputy Chief Executive Officer Marjan Hussein Marjan. David Towet will be in charge of operations. Salome Oyugi takes over legal and compliance matters, whereas Sydney Namulungu will be in charge of tallying centers. Albert Gogo will be in charge of election technology, while Agatha Wahome will manage finance, procurement, and administration. It will appear IEBC Chief Executive Officer Ezra Chiloba has been locked out of the repeat poll.
I have a team now, a project team which is different from the team that was there on 8th of August to run the presidential election. So if there's another official, they will not take an active role in the 26th October election.
Mheshimiwa Junet, one of the demands that you guys had as the opposition was that you did not want Ezra Chiloba anywhere near the repeat polls. And I've asked you, is there any of your demands that has been met? Does this look or sound like a demand that is being met? You guys did not want Chiloba in the team.
This is directly opposite of our demand.
Okay.
It's totally in contravention of our demand.
What did you guys want? What has been granted?
When the ruling was made, and IEBC started preparing for an election, Chebukati came and said that he has formed a team, a project team. What happened? The other commissioners ganged up against him. Chiloba ganged up against him. They went to Naivasha for a meeting, stayed there for 4 or 5 days. I don't know what they discussed. And then they said, we have agreed. We have hence discovered that this is a team that has been put in place by Chiloba himself. We have confirmation. Secondly,
this team, the new one now.
This is Chiloba's team. This is not Chebukati's team.
Okay.
Secondly, Chiloba is still in office. These people who have been put in these positions report to some directors who are still in office. Now, your boss remains your boss. For example, who is the managing editor now? For example, Joe Ageo now forms a team, tells you, go to Migori, do this story this way. He tells another reporter, do this way in Garissa, another one, do this way. Then he goes on leave. So you will just be doing the work he has given you. That's exactly the game they want to play on us. Okay. They have set up everything, put up everything. In fact, I'm told Chiloba can even go on leave next week. He's done. He's finished his job. He's finished his job. He's finished.
Let me tell you.
Now, we are not children. We are grown-ups.
Let me tell you, Linda, something that you may not be aware of.
What?
During August 8th elections, NASA had an army of people in the name of agents. The parties within NASA coalition, they had 2 agents each. In a particular polling center, they had over 10 agents. The work of an agent is to ensure that before voting begins, the ballot boxes are empty and there is no pre-marked ballot paper inside. And after confirming that, they seal the ballot boxes. When voting ends, and the counting begins, everybody is watching, everybody knows how much votes has the NASA presidential candidate have gotten. Okay. So with that kind of army, surely, let me tell you, that's why even the focus is on the transmitting of the forms. They are challenging the system of transmitting, but nobody from NASA is saying that from this particular polling center where our agents were, what was announced in this particular polling center was lesser than what was announced nationally. Okay. So surely, Junet and his group, they don't want an election. They want to create a crisis in this country, cause anarchy, bring in chaos, to force for a Nusumukati government.
So why is Jubilee changing the election laws? Why is Jubilee amending the laws?
Jubilee has not amended or changed any law. It is Parliament that has begun the process of amending laws. And this process, it is a process of amending laws.
Okay.
Even myself as a Jubilee Member of Parliament, there are some clauses that I will support. There are others which I will not support. Things to do with ensuring that any returning officer or the polling agent or a polling clerk or a polling officer who will use fake forms, failure to sign or stamp a particular form, should know that he's doing that.
I need to take a break because we are coming back to talk about some of these amendments. We are coming back to talk about some of these amendments. You're watching Cross